All right, fifth graders. This is big stuff. Here we are in our custom keychain shape, and you remember the last time we left off, we got completed with the tracing around the outside of of the figure. That's a big step. What's next is we've got to prepare to do the inside geometry. Now, listen, if you've drawn any lines inside, right? So I've seen a couple kids who have like lines drawn around like stuff like this, like drawn on the inside of their figure. If you've got any lines inside, and I said this in the last video, so I apologize if I wasn't clear enough, but you cannot have any lines inside of your drawing before we do the next step. You just can't. It's going to make it so that you don't have a solid object. So if you want to be able to 3D print this object, then you have to make sure that any of the work that you've done that I told you not to do, but any of the work that you've done inside of this figure, we've got to go back and erase it. So I'm going to get my eraser tool and I'm going to erase all these lines that are inside of the object that I cannot have in place before I take that next couple steps. Okay, so any internal lines that you've drawn, you've got to erase them. Even if that's upsetting to you, I'm sorry, they have to be out of there or you will not have a solid object. If you don't have a solid object, we're just not going to print it. We're not going to 3D print your project for you if it's not a solid object. Now, once we've got all those internal lines, so all we've got is that outside, the outline of the figure, and we've got that grayed out shape because we've finished the outline. If that's the place we're in, we're going to do one thing that I think is pretty cool, and then we're going to do something that's pretty normal, that's something we've done before. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the paint bucket. You're like, what? The paint bucket? We haven't used that at all. We haven't used it much. You guys have used it more than I have, but it's an important tool for this project because it's going to give us the ability to see the internal geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit on the what is that, the library or whatever it is, and I'm going to go down to glass or mirror, glass and mirrors. Okay. Now in glass and mirrors, there's three different choices here that would work for you. There's actually more than three that would work for you, but I'm going to tell you to use this one, or this one. The sky and clouds works. This blue one works, and this gray one is my new favorite. So I'm going to use the gray one right here. And once I've got the gray glass paint bucket, I'm going to click on my object and you can see what it does. It makes it so that I can see through what I drew, right? So I can now see again the internal geometry in my object, which is going to be pretty important stuff. Once I've done the paint bucket tool, okay, I can click on that arrow to make that paint bucket stuff go back away. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a push pull. Now, you got to bear with me here. This is part of the process. But if you do this before you do any internal lines, everything is going to turn out better for you. So I'm going to go to my push-pull tool, and I'm going to get in my object. You can see I've got the polka dots inside of that geometry. I'm going to click and release, drag up, and then I'm going to type 0.1. So 0.1 is 1/10 of a millimeter. It's a tiny push-pull. And you can see right now, it looks like I just got the drawing that I had a minute ago. But that 0.1 push-pull makes it so that SketchUp knows that this needs to be a solid object. And now we can go ahead and make all the lines we need to on the inside, and then we can push-pull other things to different heights once we've done that. So once we've done that tiny little push-pull, we're ready to go forward with our next step. Now what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to zoom in and show you. See how there actually is thickness to this now. It's not just a drawing right now. We actually have a three-dimensional object. So that's a big step, and that sets us up for what's next, which is actually doing the internal geometry, making it so that that internal geometry is going to show up in our 3D print. So once you've got that, make sure you save, right? Click that save button often, and because now you set up for what's next, which is actually adding the internal geometry. I can't wait to see it.